XRP chart experts point out on Twitter that XRP will be doing a 23x this cycle. By the way, I don't give out price predictions, so keep that in mind. But I also have ideas and thoughts, just like all of you do. What one might reasonably expect to occur concerning XRP's price increase this cycle. And I'll tell you this, it's as far as I want to go in making expectations clear. And again, it's not a price prediction. I would not be shocked if the price of XRP reaches 50 times again. I would not be surprised at all. That is safely nestled in the realm of possibility, and I will explain why. At the same time, the headline in Cointelegraph, which is a publication that has been trashing XRP for 10 years, reads as follows: when you see something like this, it stands out. They write about XRP daily, sometimes several stories each day for days and days on end. It's been very negative coverage almost all of the time, or nearly always. But now here is a positive headline from them. XRP futures open interest increased by 25%, while the price chart bulls are targeting $14 using a flagpole. Wasn't it only like 2 days ago that they were writing about how XRP might drop under $1? Didn't I get that wrong? I'm sure it was Cointelegraph. Now they're saying, oh hey, $14. But the good news is that there's a great deal of reason behind all these arguments, so you can rest assured. At the same time, please understand clearly that I am not financially trained in any way. I cannot provide financial advice. In no way should you ever buy or sell anything based on anything I may say, for the simple reason that there are no guarantees with this sort of thing. And it is far too easy to lose your whole investment money in just one fell swoop like that. I am just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos on cryptos, but just for fun, and only one person up there said that. At the same time, subscribers also exist, however, which of course helps spread things out to more viewers and draws more attention, including advertisers, anyway. In fact, one of the things I mentioned in my very last video is that when the market does indeed top out sometime or other, there will be signs, and we have to know what they are or we'll be left holding the bag. You know, markets tumble, and when they do tumble, it's pretty much over in no time flat. There are a lot of people who made blanket statements about the entire crypto asset class, in its entirety, and individual coins in that category, that the movement to the upside is like a stair step, and the movement down is like an elevator. At which point do I die? So it'll go up, and if you look at the whole thing, at a distance, on a chart, welding is very neat. And when that breaks, oh my God, does it ever stir up trouble? Therefore, it is very important that we not be caught in a traffic jam like this. And one of the indicators that we absolutely must keep an eye on. I'm going to talk about 100% more so you can get a feel for when it's time to look for something else instead of only using numbers. Do they mean now, hey, it could be getting just too mental? The historical perspective tells us that this is a moment ripe for concern. We might as well cash out now, otherwise, things are not going to end well in the least. Especially too, because it is coming. Indeed, it is. Plus, there is this. Paul Barron has a new post up on his website. He operates the YouTube channel Paul Barron Network, and over at YouTube, he's got an impressive 1.43 million subscribers. It's a very sizable channel. So he calls himself a technology guy, but he borrows a lot from crypto as well. He's kept pace with XRP, for example, and he understands the significance. Seems like a pretty astute person here. So he shared this chart showing USD Bitcoin and noted that from his perspective the mood is sky high now, and with its monthly RSI also in high figures breaking back above 70. Relative Strength Index, a sentiment measure used specifically on Bitcoin. When it is overbought, markets become more volatile, for the first time in months. Let me just break in here for you. It is pretty generally accepted that when any asset, stock, or even crypto hits 70, that's the first mark of overbought. The range to 100 neglects small differences into pretty much only two levels. 70 is first, and then at 30 or below, you enter oversold territory. Conversely, maybe too many people are now selling off. It could also be seen as a chance to buy in, for the first time. Furthermore, just to make things clear, this is a general trend mindset that will vary depending on the asset you are talking about. AES. Take a stock from way back decades like General Electric and see, okay, generally it has been as low with going into overbought territory at 25, maybe really 35 or something like, but you are. When it goes into overbought, it looks more like 65 or 75, around 80, I don't really care. So here you have to take into account the individual stock, but overall, the percentage is correct. It is generally accepted within the industry that at this figure of things, it is completely and unmistakably overbought territory. In other words, you really should be taking some profits there as soon as things have gotten to the point where you're technically overbought. But all because your technical condition tips into the overbought range is by no means the moment when, poof, everything falls apart. Quite the contrary. You'll find out numbers these days don't start coming through overburdened thresholds until later. A number might go even higher in the meantime, which can actually make it easier on themselves to sort this state of being out. So far, so good. This is where you get your manic phase, people coming back into retail investing. As the old Futurama, or was it The Simpsons, take my money. The character I'm talking about in that fry meme, you know what I mean. And then, you've got to see where it all began. This is why I want you to pay attention to this, after which we shall also look at XRP in perhaps perfect synchronicity, or at least nearly all of our content from here on out will be about XRP. He wrote here that in the last 2 bull cycles, Bitcoin peaked when its relative strength index reached about 90, which, again, is on a scale of 0 to 100, right? So it actually hit 90. That's about as high as it gets. It's saying here that in the year 2021, sentiment towards Bitcoin peaked at 87.81. Currently, the index is 62.18, which means that on the whole level, cryptos are still just beginning to be rated. Altcoins will soon feel the heat, and remaining forever in this ecstatic state is what the final stage ought to bring, until we burn ourselves out on everything. Listen, folks, just look where we're going. Take a look at this. We've got a ways to go yet. So, look, when we declare this income, we get more dollars. No doubt about it. From now until then, hares will run crazy to the Mount Moon market and people will go crazy happy. At Mount Moon market, there hasn't been a bear year in 18 years. Looking at the recent news, it's easy to understand. It's a question of whether global stocks can close in the black this year. The type of thinking like that is typical, and these less experienced little retail speculators are usually the first ones shot down. By the time the sellers are all gone, the zap of the car has already passed them by. But as we start to advance further, and by the way, I should say one more thing on top of that, we go even more careful, cause lower peak means potential that this one can be lower yet again. Now you guys do whatever you want. I won't tell you whether to sell. So, as I say, while I do not know your personal circumstances and I am not able to advise, everyone should still be mindful of the situation. There's a way to go here. So there is this post from one of the XRP chart analysts, Crypto Insight UK. And he shared a video clip from a live stream that Raoul Pal did. Raoul Pal is a former Goldman Sachs executive, the founder and CEO of Real Vision, and a global macro investor. I think this guy is absolutely brilliant. He's the one from whom I first learned the significance and the interrelation of Bitcoin increasing with global liquidity. And historically, that is the case, the vast majority of the time. And so he did a live stream yesterday, and I didn't catch it live, but ended up watching. It was like an hour and 8 minutes or something. It was the day before. As Bitcoin hit a new all-time high yesterday, he was celebrating right now, because someone else had called him wrong and said things like you're an idiot or whatever. The terror stuff is going to blow everything to hell. Although I have always pushed that idea back. It never seemed to me that it would, though. Bitcoin was also celebrating. But it's like so. Bitcoin hit a new all-time high yesterday. It did so also today. And then out of the blue, a new high tomorrow, obviously. And so we did a bunch of charts, and there's a lot of interesting stuff here. One of the things he pointed out was that Bitcoin, the nearest thing to today's liquidity conditions, which we have experienced, was in 2017. You know what happened then. Bitcoin went totally wild, a crazy alt season at the end of 20117. From the bottom to the peak, he said Bitcoin did a 23x, and its price at its highest was close to 20 grand. The start of that would, I guess, be a little under $1,000. That's a big rally all in all. Most of that move, by the way, maybe half of it came during the last couple of weeks, 3 or 4 weeks. I'm saying it out of memory, but this is pretty much right, isn't it? I think it may be either November or late December, Bitcoin hits $10,000 for the first time ever. And within weeks, nearly got up to 20 grand. That's how short it can get done. It's a full year to get to $10,000 from less than 1,000, and then that type of thing happens. And it can happen with XRP, too. It can be pushed forward. Definitely. That's what he told me. You're not going to pull off a 23x this cycle with Bitcoin. And there is too much money in it. He's right. I wrote about that a few times before. It takes far too much money in for a 23x increase with the Bitcoin cycle. Impossible. On that, he is absolutely correct. But what about other coins such as XRP? Can it do a 23x on them, too? Well, Crypto Insight UK says so. Look at what he wrote here. He said 2017 saw Bitcoin at 23x within similar liquidity conditions. And then he quoted Raoul Pal, who said now Bitcoin won't but something will. One of the big tokens will do something resembling that, end quote. Fantastic presentation from Raoul Pal on his Real Vision Drinks with Raoul. This guy is great. This cycle, I also think XRP is the big token doing 23x. It's just that the reason why I think 23x would be an enormously modest guess is, and I know that he thinks that XRP could go much higher, because you know where XRP bottomed, don't you? It was 28 cents in June 2018. That was nearly 3 years ago, 28 cents. So if it does a 23x like Bitcoin did back then, it only gets XRP to $6.44. So that's why at the beginning, I was like, and this is my immediate response when I sussed out what the math was on this. I was like, 23x. I was thinking more on the order of double that. You know, it'd be something like, what we talking 50x? I could get a little nearer to that. Isn't that a little unconscionable of them? After all, they might still be. That is the most level-headed thing I say all day. You could say that is true only if the whole market falls apart. But then I can't say that. If Bitcoin doesn't continue and we fail to get into an alt season, then XRP, or any other coin, cannot possibly take off. So if you're talking about even a 50-fold increase from its low at 28 cents, that puts you up to $14 even, $14, not totally crazy. And once you realize that Bitcoin tracks global M2, and that the crypto asset class moves together with it, then that ought to give you a lot of confidence here. And on his live stream yesterday, Ralph Paul mentioned that global M2 does not correlate with Bitcoin 100% of the time. If I remember correctly, he said it was 90% of the time is his recollection. So I'm just saying, hey, it's correlating pretty damn perfectly at the moment. And that's right there written on the screen. You can see for yourself. I've displayed his graphics here many times. But he says it's going to decouple. When's it going to decouple? When Bitcoin goes, it'll start to go parabolic in price as more and more money comes into the space. Word of mouth. It's nothing but retail FOMO. Just FOMO. And so it decouples from global M2 to the upside at that point. It vastly outpaces liquidity because more and more people pour in. And then when you hit a peak, it actually begins descending. People will panic sell, and so on, and confidence is gone. And then at that point, too, it decouples. Most likely, however, at any given moment in time, it is not only likely but highly probable that the correlation will not be broken. It certainly persists. He's even betting that it's going to be like that. Now the story changes. But it's only natural that the more money that came in, which is a good thing. When that happens, you'll cash out your profit from Bitcoin and throw all over other coins such as XRP. And that's how you can get these kinds of crazy returns. Indeed. And so we come to this article. XRP futures maximum open interest surges by 25% in the article. Price chart creates bull flag targets $14. Now let's break down the chart to explain this. XRP has made on its weekly chart a bull flag triangle, a kind of technical design connected with significantly rising prices. If breaking this arrangement, in addition to rising open interest for XRP futures, a rally to $14 is signaled. XRP rallied in tandem with the broader crypto market on May 22nd as Bitcoin set new all-time highs to levels above $111,000. With that, XRP surged over the same period to an intraday high of $2.45 on May 22nd from the May 21st low at $2.33. Open interest for XRP futures rose to $4.95 billion, up 25% from 24 hours earlier on May 22nd. Marking derivatives traders return to the market and a capital infusion. But viewers, I strongly suspect this is just the start of a string of such reports. Nevertheless, historically significant leaps in XRP's price have occurred when its open interest, for instance, today an all-time high, gives way to a major run. For example, recall that the current scenario is similar to how XRP's price surged when former President Donald Trump ordered a cryptocurrency strategic reserve to contain XRP, Solana, and Cardano in early March. This sparked a 46% hike in open interest for the 24 hours from May 2nd to May 3rd, as OI rose from $3.05 billion to $4.63 billion. The XRP price, in turn, shot 36% up from its low of $2.17 to a high in the same period of mid-May of $2.96. Nor is that the only reason we think we might get up to those levels. There are countless ways you can analyze this thing. Take a look at this. Title: Will XRP price break into double digits? Well, I don't know, but it can't sound entirely mad, eh? The XRP-USD pair is well placed to restore its bullish momentum as a classic bullish chart pattern unfolds on a chart. The formation of a bull flag pattern on the weekly chart since November 5, 2024, see chart below, reflects the recent performance of XRP. A weekly candlestick close above $2.48, which is the upper boundary of the bull flag, will lead to another rally. The target and forecast are established by the height of the flagpole around $14.50, a 500% plus gain from current prices. So, it's not altogether impossible. And when Raoul Pal says that, for another 23-fold increase, it sounds like he has worked through those figures himself. I wouldn't be surprised that XRP, among other capsules, certainly not including Bitcoin, seems able to go far higher than that in both absolute and relative terms over overall cycles, way higher. I mean, just think about it. So for XRP in the 2017 cycle, if you look at where it finally sort of peaked around $3.35, that's like what? A 670x increase for a cycle, 670? Something like that. Because the thing was half a cent when it started. And that kind of thing is just not attainable anymore for XRP today, due to the increased quantity of capital in XRP there, which makes it much harder to provoke a surge which can be sustained over time, as well as a general rise greater than single purposes such as doubles, triples, quadruples, and so forth. We can just hope that the days when we can boast of gains of 50, 75 times from bottom to top will recur, ergo. It would be perfectly normal. But would not Suizumi make that our companions in these environments of the world of platforms? For Nancy, it's probably the normal thing. I can't imagine how you would not be happy now, John. It does not bug me at all. And it really does look like we're right at the end of the cycle. Folks, we've all lived through 2.5 years of a bull market. So now we all stand, due because the FDX collapsed at the end of 2022 on the upward slope that FOMO boosts the market. Oh, well, yeah, we can't keep going like this forever. But we can for a little longer yet. Step on into the party's the situation we are right now. It could go to a new low, and you wake up the next day, and it's just gone, this side up anymore. Standing at 8 p.m. next spring, look at the price of XRP USA time and tell me. By Felicia. Let's go back. That's what lies ahead. You should not be in anything I say or write, nor buy or sell a single security. It would be a bad idea to do anything of the sort.